Jesus, that's too loud. Let me fix that.
That would not be an Arikado stream if some sort
I
of.
don't know why that was at
technical
100%.
glitch
What the fuck is wrong with? Okay. VLC, you threw off my groove. Good evening, my darling batlings, and I greet you with a simple question. Yo, I'm going to Windy Castle. You want anything?
I strangle you.
But you can't, because you don't have hands.
Yes. Because I ain't got nobody.
Alright, so, a little bit of an update. Due to my ongoing illness, I've had to drop my class that I was taking, and it's only offered in the spring, so I won't be able to take it until next spring. So next semester I'm going to be taking just whatever comes up. But in the meantime, that leaves me with a little bit more time for streaming. So, you know, if I'm feeling up to it, hopefully I can stream more frequently now that I'm not inhibited by my school schedule.
Yeah, but don't push yourself to stream if you're not up for it, dude. Of course.
Yeah. Yeah. Part of me feels like I'm letting people down when I go on extended breaks like that. But that's a me problem, not a problem with anything else. I don't know how to describe it. I've never claimed to be a cunning linguist.
The way I get what you're trying to say. It's a you problem, not a we problem. It's not like it's not our fault. It's just the fact that your mind makes you think. It's just your mind is being overly hard on you.
It has to do with how I was raised, but that's getting into a whole like fucking therapeutic topic right there, which we're not here for.
We are not here for that. No. Feelings? Nah, get them out of here.
Feelings are for squares, like pants. Speaking of pants and squares, we're doing SpongeBob SquarePants Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated tonight.
What an truck way!
I don't know how to go on from that, so without further Mountain Dew, let's switch over to the PS5 screen because I'm too late.
I see.
No, I'm not snooping. I don't know what you're talking about. You can't prove anything.
Yeah, I got my proof.
Look, I was not snooping. The arrest warrant says nothing about snooping.
Let's see. We put on my my tiny little reading glasses.
It doesn't say snooping. It says breaking and entering. Those are two different things. I feel like the game may be a little bit quiet. Let me fix that. I want to be able to hear.
Yes.
The glorious dulcet tones of Thomas Kenny.
No!
Even though I'm pretty sure this is Clancy Brown singing the theme. I don't know. I know it's not Tom Kenny.
Yeah.
Although we won't be hearing Clancy Brown in this game. Because they reused the exact same audio track from the original versions due to the deaths of both Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway, who played Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, and who appear pretty prominently in this game.
Yeah.
So whether it be out of necessity or out of respect, they decided instead of trying to replace them for newly recorded audio, we'll just reuse the original audio track.
I mean, that's fair. Because it's probably more of a hassle to actually like incorporate new like several different audio tracks into one.
Welcome to Bikini Bottom, a normally peaceful undersea sanctuary. Today it will be transformed into a theater of pure horror, wherein our little yellow friend will play the starring role.
Of course, Plankton.
This game really shows off the poor texture loading speeds of Unreal Engine 4 because it's not meant to have like quick camera cuts like this where it has to load in the textures from shot to shot. So, but because they wanted to recreate every single camera angle from the original, which I believe ran on renderware instead, they decided to, well, it's not a decision. It's like, fuck, where are my words going? Basically, you can see the textures have to load in at the beginning of every scene.
Welcome, my perfectly obedient robot army.
That's no good.
A photo for my scrapbook. Hey, hello? What do you think you're doing?
Oh no. Why did he install the don't obey switch?
But I'm your master.
It's one of two things you don't do as a mad scientist. The other is forgetting to install a power switch on your Frankenstein monster. So you can easily turn it off if it turns on you.
Oh, this is Plankton we're talking about.
Yes.
Yeah, only I keep getting the racehorses and the robots mixed up.
I will say, while a lot of people complain that this game looks a little bit sterile in Unreal Engine 4, the facial animations definitely benefit.
Real robots are getting
Because if you go back and look at the original version and its cutscenes, apart from, you know, having some kind of muddy texture work that I don't think lends itself very well to the SpongeBob aesthetic, it really made like usage of canned expressions and canned poses that makes a lot of it loses a lot of the charm that the SpongeBob cast would have when they're only limited to certain facial expressions and certain poses.
real robots to play with.
But Patrick, aren't we going to say
But, you
the
know,
magic wishing
Licensed
word?
game, done on a budget, can't complain too much.
Okay, is the magic wishing word?
It used to be Alakazama Alabala Wiesna Tikitana Fushbar Griddle Bits von Wiederschnauzer, but I kept forgetting it.
Are you sure this will work?
Solid reason to me. I was about to say
Last week, I only had
Spatrick.
one big
Patrick.
cookie crumb and I was really hungry, so I put my cookie crumb in the magic wishing shell. Then I said the magic wishing word and shook it, and in the morning I had lots of little cookie crumbs.
How do you know that's the result of wishing and not the result of mitosis?
Good night, SpongeBob.
Good night. Patrick.
The next morning,
Gonna play with robots, gonna play with robots, gonna play with robots, gonna play with. Wow! Gary, did you do that?
If your bikini bottom stinks, that means you should probably get some stuff checked out. Just word to the wise.
Yeah, Gary.
Yeah.
It sure looks like we're in a doozy of a pickle. I think I'm gonna have to learn a lot in order to fix this mess. Meow. What a fantastic idea! These signs will provide important tips to help me out.
Aren't these
Okay,
game
Starscream.
designers wonderful?
How do I read the signs? Meow. Oh, okay. Press this button to read the signs.
Okay, voice acting quirk here. Really smart of them to say this button just for the ease of not having to record multiple takes of what button to press for multiple console releases. It's like this in the original
Right.
too.
Meow. So if I want to come back and talk to you again, just walk up
Because,
here
you
and
know,
press this button.
The shoulder buttons are
Sorry,
labeled
Gary.
differently on
I
each
think that
console.
This is going to be a very
Mm.
long day.
All
You're
right.
an idiot, Starscream. It
Okay.
works because Tom Kenny was the voice of Starscream in Transformers.
Oh
Animated.
yeah, I forgore because I haven't seen animated. I've seen one episode of
Yeah.
Animated, and it's the one that introduced Black Arachnia.
Breaking news! Bikini Bottom residents have been attacked by a raging torrent of robot horror.
Sounds like your average day in my neck of the woods.
So much for fixing this quietly.
Authorities are not sure who is responsible for unleashing the mechanical menaces, but they have assured us that the person is in big, big trouble.
Uh-oh.
Did I say big trouble? I meant so enormous that it's hard to comprehend trouble. We'll keep you posted as this tragic story unfolds. Tragically, we're sure.
Okay, like, as much as I have to give credit to Purple Lamp Studios for their faithful updates of the original game, I do have to give credit to the original devs over at Heavy Iron. That was the name of the studio that made this. Because, like, at the time, the reason that licensed games tended to be so mediocre to terrible was because they were seen as low-quality work that you just did for a paycheck. You can tell that Heavy Iron, the original developers of Battle for Bikini Bottom, really were SpongeBob fans.
A note from Mr. Krabs.
Like, a licensed game comes out good
Him.
when you can tell that the people working on it like the source material.
Ahoy there, SpongeBob.
Yeah.
And there's our first bootleg crabs.
Krusty Krab, you've been, promoted to head shiny object collector.
Wow! A promotion!
He doesn't do a terrible Mr. Krabs impression, but there's certain
He does a
nuances to his...
impression.
There's certain nuances to how he says certain
Give myself a
words that he
promotion.
doesn't get right.
That's right, a promotion. So what this here new job entails is you collecting all these shiny objects that the robots are leaving behind and bringing them to me. Now stop seahorsing around and get busy collecting.
Like, the main thing that sticks out to me that tells me, oh, this
It's
isn't,
time.
well, apart from his voice being higher pitched, is the way he says spatula.
Yeah.
That is a Mr. Krabs, Clancy Brown's Mr. Krabs, pronunciation of spatula is so ingrained in me from episode 1, that, oh, hi, Mystery. Mystery the Seahorse. Yeah, they throw in a lot of, screen caps from later episodes or stuff that became memes in recent years, in this game. Whereas before it was like production stills. With this one being from I believe, season 3 episode? The one where he gets a seahorse.
Oh, okay.
And he names it Mystery. I get a wee snaw in the chat.
What?
That's the sound that a seahorse makes. Wee snaw.
Oh, jeez.
You ready to see the best tutorial of health items ever?
Let's see it.
This is a pair of SpongeBob's underwear. SpongeBob will lose a pair of underwear every time he gets hit by a robot or touches dangerous objects or surfaces. Like this.
Ouch.
Fresh like a spring breeze.
Okay, this time to go on a SpongeBob nerd rant here. See this photo? This is not a photo of SpongeBob.
What is it then?
In the context of the episode where that screen cap is taken from, it's the episode where he's trying to get into the salty spittoon, but he keeps getting rejected because he's too much of a wimp. He tries coming in disguise. So we see this guy who looks exactly like SpongeBob, but with a wig on, and sounds exactly like SpongeBob, putting on like a tough guy voice, try to get into the salty spittoon. And the joke is that we're supposed to think it's SpongeBob, but then the real SpongeBob shows up, acting like his normal self. And it turns out this is just an unrelated guy who looks and sounds exactly like SpongeBob.
where I keep all my old comic books.
SpongeBob, make sure you get those graded. They're probably worth something. In fact, there's a video from a channel called Comic Drake, where for April Fool's Day, he tried to find out what the most worthless comic on the aftermarket is. And then tried to either, depending on what it is, tries to make the worst, lowest quality condition of that comic. And then get it graded and see how worthless he can make it while still having it graded.
Oh, jeez.
And the result was like a random, I think it was like a random Superman issue from the 90s that didn't have any major event plot lines or major character introductions in it. Just your average Superman issue from the 90s. And then he, like, destroyed the fuck out of it to ruin its condition. And got it autographed by someone that has no significance whatsoever, so even the autograph is worthless. And he took it to get graded, and you want to know what score he got?
What?
0.5. Which is the lowest score that they give out.
Oh, wow.
Because they can't give out a 0. Otherwise, they just wouldn't grade it.
Yeah. Right, that makes sense.
Girdle, hello! I've missed you! How've you been? Been getting so many returning people that have been missing lately. It's so nice.
This is where I keep all my old comic books.
Watch, he talks about you know, keeping all of his old comic books here, but they're like, given that he's a Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy fan, it's probably like worthless 90s issues of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy from when they tried to do a gritty reboot to appeal to the extreme 90s crowd. Like Rob Liefeld, Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy comics. I don't mean to shit on Rob Liefeld too much. He's just the go-to guy to describe bad 90s comics. And it's not for... It's not for no reason.
Right.
This is where I keep all my old comic books.
You've been cursed with 3 different sicknesses over the past 2 months. I am no longer sick. I'm glad to hear that you're no longer sick. I ended up, past couple weeks, including this week, I've got another doctor's appointment coming up, just for like some blood work. But we're starting to get to the root of like what all my health issues have been.
This is where I keep all my old comic books.
It's like a combination of 2 issues from what we can gather. So I've been dealing with that, and because of that, I've had to drop the class I was taking, and I have to retake it next spring because it's only offered in the spring. But yeah, I'm glad to hear that you're feeling better. Sucks being sick for a long time, especially back-to-back illnesses. It's like the one wasn't enough.
A little bounce on the old bed.
Yeah.
Also, for those of you just tuning in, yes, I did update my model a little bit. I'm not counting this as, like, you know, a new model debut. Just, like, update the textures and, some of the expressions a bit. Just, make it look a little bit nicer. I do have a new model reveal planned. I just don't have a date set for it yet. If you're in so much pain, then I recommend getting some good rest here. Don't feel inclined to join us tonight if you're not feeling up to it. Yeah, I've missed a lot of school too, Girdle. I've missed like pretty much the entire past month.
Ah, there's nothing like the sounds of your own neighborhood.
Go away, SpongeBob. You're polluting my thinking space.
Trying to steal the Krabby Patty formula again, eh, Plankton? Well, you won't get away with it.
I've got bigger fish to fry. I've got to figure out how to regain.
If you want to hear something really uncanny, listen to the Japanese dub of SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom, and Plankton sounds like Marine from Hololive,
Where'd they come from?
if you know her.
Where? I don't
Basically, instead of having
know.
deep,
For me, though, that's for
deep
sure.
melodramatic
Showed up out of
voice,
nowhere,
Plankton
started
sounds
calling me
like a
rude
cute
and
anime
throwing
girl.
things. They even bent all my spoons. I love those spoons like they were my children.
That's terrible.
Oh, won't you help me stop them before they bend all my forks?
Not the forks! Of course I'll help. But wait, I'm supposed to collect a whole lot of golden spatulas.
Golden spatulas, eh? SpongeBob, if you could get me back into the chum bucket, I'll give you a
Fun
bucket
fact,
full
did
of
you know that I can
spatulas.
bend spoons?
In your dreams.
Yeah, but only the plastic ones.
You've got a deal.
You can bend metal spoons. The only kind of metal spoons I can bend are the ones from Denny's. I don't know why. It perplexes me as much as it does you.
Hey, SpongeBob! I just dropped by to give you a bubble hand.
Bubble Buddy.
You see, you're going to need to learn some new bubble-blowing moves if you're going to journey to the 9th dimension and defeat the giant monkey man.
Why does that sound like a cooler plot than what we're doing? What the hell, Bubble Buddy?
Yeah, right?
All I need to do is figure out how to get rid of these robots.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I've been in the soap bottle a little too long. Where were we?
Something about new bubble moves?
Right! Press this button and you'll launch yourself straight up in the air with bubble power that defeats anything that is directly above you. Try it out!
So, like, I know a lot of people have nostalgia for Banjo-Kazooie. You know, not for nothing, because it's a really good collectathon series. This was basically my Banjo-Kazooie. It has, like, the exact same setup. As far as, like, tiered collectibles and, you know, levels that are accessed from a world map whose, entrances are blocked by a certain amount of your main collectible. It's Banjo-Kazooie, but with SpongeBob. Shadow Dragon, hello!
SpongeBob, this flapping robot crisis is making the Krusty Krab lose money like a sinking ship. No money means no more Krusty Krab. No more Krusty Krab means no more fry cooking for you.
No more fry cooking?
Seriously, even though they're using, like, automated lip flaps for the, in-engine stuff, the expressions really carry it.
But because you're gullible, I'm gonna help you out. And of course, make a small profit in return.
Hey, at least he's upfront about it.
Spatulas that I'll be willing to trade
There we go,
you
he
for
says
some of my shiny
spatulas.
objects.
The real Mr. Krabs would say spatulars. Got a free key for a game. Nice. What game? By the way, did you ever redeem that Steam key that I gave you years ago? It's probably expired by now. And somewhat fun well, fun for me because it's like a local thing. The conference that I got that free Steam key at is no longer happening due to poor industry turnout. So I'm glad I went the last big year that they had. And even then, it wasn't really a big year, considering that the only publisher that really showed up was Funcom. Oh, you did? Good. Yeah, they were Funcom was handing out free Steam keys at their booth for the game Conan Chop Chop for different platforms. And I didn't really have any interest in it, but I'm not going to turn down a free Steam key for a game from a, like, B-tier publisher. So I gave it to Kier. Because I knew I wasn't going to play it, but I want someone to have it that would get a kick out of it. No, not the pinball one, the Conan game. The one that's like a cartoony Conan hack and slash. Okay, you did. Good. Gonna try and do as much in this section of Bikini Bottom as I can before going to the first level.
Hey,
You know,
Patrick,
typical
sock.
collectathon platformer instincts.
What sock?
The one you're standing on.
Oh, that one. It's lost.
I can't take this seriously because I'm so used to the edit of this where he walks up and he's like, "Hey, Patrick, nice cock."
Well, if that one's lost, where are your other socks?
Oh, they're more lost. A bunch of robots.
Short MMO RPG inspired by Final Fantasy-like game. Nice. Very nice.
Sure thing, Patrick. What are best friends for?
Jesus, why did the bubble wand get so big there?
For every 10 socks you
Is that a bubble wand in your pocket, or are you just happy to see me?
Golden turkey baster.
You mean spatula?
Bless you.
Hey, you!
What do I think of this compared to the OG? They each have their own strengths and weaknesses. I wouldn't say that one's definitively better than the other. They're about on equal ground, as far as I'm concerned. Especially after the post-launch updates that ironed out a lot of the issues that had it launching. Like, the main ones, to me, being, hey, Cloud. Glad to see you here. The main ones to me being, at launch, Mr. Krabs' shiny object totals that you had to turn in to get golden spatulas from him were way higher than they were supposed to be. And in one of the, like, first or second updates, they fixed that to be back to the original version's values. And the other one being that at launch, if you beat the game, you couldn't refight any of the bosses. Which also locked you out of getting the 100% completion bonus video. Good. They fixed that in an update too. The one thing I'll say is a complete waste is the multiplayer mode. It was dead at launch, and it's just like your standard horde mode. But hey, Robo Squidward finally gets to appear.
Is mayonnaise an instrument?
The rolling green hills of
No, Patrick, mayonnaise is not an instrument.
At its most raw, and sometimes a bit tender from the skin.
That line I also can't take seriously because I'm so used to a YouTube poop version of it, where it's like, is penis an instrument? No, Patrick, penis is not an instrument. Not the way I use them. Horseradish is not an instrument either. You know, it's funny. This is the second game in recent weeks that I've streamed that has Roger Bumpus in it.
Squidward, are you okay?
Roger Bumpus, of course, playing Squidward, and also doing the disguised thief voice of Angela Cross in Ratchet & Clank 2.
Do I look like I'm okay?
Well, your nose does look pretty big. I mean, bigger than usual because it's usually pretty big. And you look clammy. And oh my gosh, you're bald!
There's our first meme. Yeah, that animation was not in the original. They inserted it as a reference to, like, millennial humor memes.
But now I'm stuck.
I wish they would remaster some of the games from my childhood. There's a lot of games from my childhood that I wish they would remaster. This is a very rare case of a licensed game getting a complete from the ground up remake, where, like, the reason you don't see this happen so much is just due to licenses being, like, really tangled up nowadays. Like, a lot of the companies that made these games back in the day are just not around anymore.
Well, I guess you're off to scale Spork Mountain and die a hard
Yeah, the OG
death
dot hack,
tentacle
Legend of
that takes
Dragoon,
jellyfish.
Mega Man Legends.
I'll
Mega Man
see
Legends, I say,
all
could
out
benefit
here
from a
with
from the
this
ground up
swoosh
remake.
bang.
Just so they
Do
update
that.
the controls.
Don't worry, Squidward. I'll bring back that king jellyfish jelly for you to rub all over yourself.
Okay, the superhero voice that SpongeBob does, that really dates this to, like, when I think Season 2 was the newest one. That's something that, like, younger generations who grew up on the post-movie seasons might not get. That was something that SpongeBob did a lot back in the early episodes. Like, when he wanted to sound cool, he would put on that deep voice. Like, it's an interesting choice to remaster this game because, one, it's a licensed game. I say remaster, it's actually a remake. A lot of people use those terms interchangeably. It's sort of a pet peeve of mine when people call stuff like Spyro Reignited Trilogy a remaster when it's actually a from the ground up remake. I know, very stupid pet peeve to have, but that's the entire point of pet peeves. They're supposed to be about stupid, inconsequential shit.
I mean, honestly, I remember you and I had this conversation a while back when I messaged you how I said they had remastered the first Gears of War game, but like with better graphics and everything, and you told me, like, that's not a remaster, that's a complete remake from the ground up.
Well, at I haven't played it myself. So, like, I've never played a Gears of War game. So I can't exactly, you know, speaking with the benefit of hindsight and a more mature perspective, I can't say for certain whether that's a remaster or a remake without having played both of them myself. My guess, I would be leaning more towards remake just due to, you know, Epic Games not being involved in the development of it.
Yeah.
Like, there are some edge cases where it's a remaster, but they did have to remake certain aspects of it. Like, the Kingdom Hearts HD remasters, they lost the source code for Kingdom Hearts 1 and had to remake parts of it from, either assets from later games or from the ground up and just try to get it to look as close to the original as possible. Like, Sora's modeled so they could have, like, a easier one to work with modern platforms. They used his model from, I believe it was, Dream Drop Distance rather than his OG PS2 model. You wish they would remake the Lego Hobbit and Lord of the Rings games. Like, the problem with Lord of the Rings games getting remastered is that the license is with a different publisher now. Like, you can thank the developers and publisher of that wonderful Gollum game that came out last year for that, because they now have exclusive rights to the video game license for Lord of the Rings and all of Tolkien's works. And they certainly put their best foot forward on that one, didn't they? The game's so bad that they shut down their development arm and focused strictly on publishing. The game's so bad that they couldn't even come up with a good apology for it, so they just used ChatGPT.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. The reason that, I mean, like, even if you're just talking about the visuals of that game, they couldn't use the movie design for Gollum because that is owned by a different studio, I believe Warner Brothers nowadays. So they couldn't use the likeness that everyone associates with Gollum. So they had to create a new likeness for Gollum that's just close enough that's recognizably Gollum, but legally distinct, the best kind of distinct.
Yeah.
By the way, that's also why there's that weird Hobbit game for the PS2 and GameCube that has nothing to do with the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and looks completely different because Warner Brothers or whoever had not secured the rights to The Hobbit. They had only secured the rights to the Lord of the Rings. So a separate publisher was able to make a Hobbit game and ride off of the popularity of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings trilogy. And that's also the reason why Amazon's Lord of the Rings stuff doesn't use stuff from the movies. Because, you know, Amazon doesn't get the rights to the stuff that Warner Brothers has the rights to. It's all a complicated mess. Basically, IP law is bullshit.
Yeah.
Yes, Ape Escape, please bring it back. Gamersubs makes ramen now? Damn. I gotta give that a try. Given that I'm as you've seen from my Discord server, I am a fan of some steamy nudes. Yes, I had to phrase it in that way, just to squick you out. $15 for a 12-pack? That's pretty expensive for ramen. Not sure how I feel about that.
See.
I have tried Gamersubs recently. I'm almost at the end of my current pack. I got the Grenadier Grape flavor. Because, you know, it's hard to mess up grape-flavored stuff. I didn't want to go all in on one of the more exotic flavors that they offer just yet. You get a good amount for what you pay for. The exact opposite of the Advanced GG, where you pay, like, the same price you would pay for, like, a 60-pack, a 60-count of Gamersubs powder, and you only get 30. So Gamersubs is probably going to be my go-to gamer juice from now on. It helps that they've got some creators that they partner with that I'm a fan of. I think it's interesting that Chad Tronic recently ditched his long-term sponsorship deal with G Fuel in favor of Gamersubs. I didn't see that coming. I only recently got into Chad Tronic through Curse commercials.
That's a...
Silver Veil's flavor is pretty good, decent sour cherry. I gotta give that... I'm not a big fan of sour stuff, but cherry I am a sucker for. Like, it would be super easy to poison me if you just made the poison cherry flavor.
Now hear me out.
Now, I'm not saying to go and poison me with cherry-flavored poison. I would never suggest that.
No, of course not. But hear me out. How do you feel about chocolate? Like, what kind of chocolate do you like the best?
Dark chocolate. The darker, the better.
Darker the better? I gotta see about getting you some dark chocolate with cherry in it.
You know, I've actually never had chocolate with cherry in it. Of all the things I've tried. Like, I'm very boring when it comes to chocolate. It's like, the most exotic chocolate combinations that I'll try are chocolate and peanut butter, and chocolate and caramel, and chocolate and sea salt. And it's not out of, like, you know, it sounds disgusting to me most of the time. It's like, why would I go with something like that when I can just have chocolate?
Yeah.
I won't... Until this Friday. Okay. I should get paid in the coming days, so I should be able to get some and take advantage of that deal. Calypso has a black cherry lemonade that's rumored to be really good. I'll have to look into that. I'm not a big fan of like I was about to say fruit flavored lemonades, but no, lemonade is a fruit flavor by design. I'm not a big fan of like different fruit mixed with lemonade. But I'm still willing to give that a shot. I'm trying to broaden my culinary palate, partly for my ongoing health issues. A lot of that has to do with me not eating a lot of fruit. And no, I don't have scurvy. I have a liver disease. Not gonna bungee jump. I'm like half paying attention to the game, so I missed that. Also, it took me forever to understand that. You want to know why they're wielding ham? Why these robots have ham? It's because they're hammer robots.
Boo! You stink!
That's the most appropriate. This is the most appropriate stream to use that sound clip because that comes from SpongeBob. Grab all the shiny... I love that they don't even try to justify what these things are. They just call them shiny objects. Because, like, from a gameplay perspective, do they need to be something specific? No, they're just, like, shiny things that look like the cloud designs from SpongeBob, as you can see up here. Like, the clouds in SpongeBob always look like flowers. So, fuck it, just make flower-shaped shiny things. Who cares? They're just this game's equivalent to, like, notes from Banjo or coins from Mario. So why stress about, making them a specific recognizable thing from SpongeBob? Now, believe it or not, this is not a game that I have a ton of nostalgia for, or rather, I should say the original is. I only ever rented it. I beat it in one weekend. Because, you know, pretty short game, as is standard for kids' games. Like, the SpongeBob game that I actually owned, I owned 2 of them. I love that. I love that Hans comes in and removes you when you fall out of bounds. The hammer robots usually need 2 hits. I don't know. I think it might have been a balance tweak that they made. But the 2 SpongeBob games that I grew up with, only one of which I still have a copy of, but it's in such scuffed condition that it won't even play anymore, are Super Sponge for PS1 and Legend of the Lost Spatula for Game Boy Color. And those games are objectively terrible, but I loved them as a kid because I was stupid and didn't know any better. So, Cloud, since I got you here, yo, I'm going to Windy Castle. You want anything?
I'll say, fuck!
Back in an hour? Okay, Girdle. Take your time. No need to rush. I'll be here for at least a couple hours.
We'll be
I'm
here.
pretty energetic today. Don't know whether you could call that a result of a good night's sleep or me drinking tons of coffee. Probably a mix of both. Stuck on a boot loop, I see. Yeah, we're getting to that age where games from the PS2 generation are starting to suffer from disc rot. Or just, like, you know, age-related issues. because the problem with most disc-based formats is that, like, this isn't by inherent design. It just so turns out that they start to suffer from, like, just degradation and all-out failure after roughly 20 years. And DVDs a lot of these games are about 20 years old, so they're starting to not work anymore, even on good condition copies. That's why preservation is so important. Like, physical does not always equal, you know, you have it forever. Because discs especially stop working after so many years, no matter how scratch-free they are. That's why it's important first of all, for video game publishers to make their games consistently available on newer platforms. Because we shouldn't be expected to do all the leg. But that's also why emulation is so important to keep alive and active. Because, you know, these consoles aren't going to last forever either. Yeah, you can repair a lot of these with aftermarket parts. But it takes a while for people to be able to make, you know, sufficient replacements for those parts. And in certain cases, they use such specific hardware that, you know, aftermarket options are not really there. Like, it's wonderful that we're getting to an age where PS3 and 360 emulation has come so far in such a short time. Because those consoles are already starting to... some of them were inherently poorly designed to begin with, looking at your original Xbox 360 model and your red ring of death, but PS3s are also starting to fail now due to just dying CPUs due to the thermal paste drying up over time.
Ah, jeez.
Hello, Bottom Feeder. Hello, Dash Cat.
Sponge Kid. And now, what was I supposed to tell you?
The same guy that voices Mr. Krabs in this game also voices Mermaid Man, because they didn't have the budget to get Ernest Borgnine for the original. Like I said, they reused the original audio track from this, presumably due to either budgetary reasons, development constraints, and or on top of that, the death of Ernest Borgnine and Tim Conway, so they wouldn't have been able to get the original Mermaid Man part of the boy anyway.
Patrick is surrounded by robots and needs my help.
Huh? Oh, no.
Yeah, rip to a legend.
I think it had something to do with massaging my feet.
He doesn't do a terrible mermaid. Like, he doesn't sound like Ernest Borgnine, but he does a passable Mermaid Man, if you get what I mean. Like, he doesn't sound like the Mermaid Man from the show, but he sounds believable as an elderly superhero that's suffering from senility.
By clipping my toenails?
I know that's a really overly specific description, but how else would you describe Mermaid Man?
Yeah.
I like that the newer episodes still try to honor the characters through references. So do I, and I especially like it that, like, they didn't, you know, rush ahead to recast Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy after their original voice actors passed, because they played those characters for so long that to multiple generations of people, they are Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy. I can't imagine anyone else playing the roles. So I feel like not replacing them and instead just kind of silently retiring the characters from active appearances was the right way to go with that. Although I will say there's one episode from later in the series, after I had stopped watching, that I really want to see, just because it's like an actual episode of the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy show that SpongeBob and Patrick are fans of. And they apparently got Adam West to play young Mermaid Man. And that sounds like a match made in heaven to me. Rip to another legend. You missed this info? I can't remember what season it's from, but if you Google it, I'm sure you'll find it. I believe that all the SpongeBob episodes are on Amazon Prime. So if you have a Prime subscription, you should be able to watch them. That might have changed with, you know, the introduction and more recent push for Paramount Plus as the go-to service for Paramount and, by extension, Nickelodeon productions. But at the very least, the episodes are, like, available for purchase, if not streaming for free. Amazon and Paramount Plus. Okay. That's good to hear, because I know that, you know, the wonderful folks over at Warner Brothers Discovery took off all the old Cartoon Network shows from Amazon Prime and made them Max exclusives. Basically, I'm glad that I got to watch, around Christmas time, I'm glad that I got to watch the Ed, Edd and Eddy Christmas special before it left Amazon. You've seen mixed things about... I've seen mixed things about the Knuckles show, too, but since I refused to sign up for Paramount Plus, I haven't been able to watch it yet. Like, I know there's alternatives for watching Paramount Plus shows, but, I'm terrible at starting new series. Like, I've heard mixed things. Like, a lot of people are disappointed that apparently Knuckles isn't in his own show very much. But then there are people that like the story that they do tell. And, like, that they made some pretty ballsy references. Like, apparently they just straight up reference Iblis from Sonic 06 in one episode. And give Knuckles his abilities in the movieverse the name The Flames of Disaster. Which, like, that's exciting to me. Not because, ooh, Sonic 06 reference. But it shows that Sega is being more lax on their old mandate of Sonic 06 not being allowed to be referenced in any capacity.
Let's see. Wow.
Wow.
So, did I tell you that I saw Darth Nihilus at the con?
No, you didn't.
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to you since you went to the con, so no.
Yeah,
Goodness, you're safe.
I saw Darth Nihilus at the con.
Oh, of course, SpongeBob.
Nice.
Why wouldn't I be?
Yeah, first time I've ever actually seen somebody dressed as Darth Nihilus.
You, like, from my experience, if you see any cosplayers from Knights of the Old Republic, it's usually Darth Revan.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Revans.
All the robots.
But I did. It was funny because the fact is,
I don't know what it is, but it's important.
the Nihilus that I saw, apparently, I guess it was his girlfriend or possibly sister or partner. I don't know the full details. I didn't ask. But he was with a girl who was dressed up as Zelda from what was it? What was the latest?
Tears of the
what was
Kingdom?
the latest Legend of Zelda game?
Tears of the Kingdom.
Tears of the Kingdom. Yeah. So she's dressed as Zelda from Tears of the Kingdom, and I had them pose as if Nihilus was draining her of her life force to sustain himself.
My back feels better.
Nice.
I'll send you a photo of it after the stream.
What, like, I love when people, like, have fun with posing for cosplay photos. Like, one of my favorite cosplay photos I have, because they were replicating an iconic pose for that character, is like, okay, this is gonna show not just my age, but also my interests. How many people in chat are familiar with the Mega Milk meme? Or the Mega Milk girl in particular? because I went to a convention, I saw someone cosplaying the Mega Milk Girl. And when I asked for a photo of her, because I was like, oh my god, I can't believe you cosplayed this. She did the Mega Milk Girl pose. I've read the sauce, it's actually very boring. It is very boring sauce. Not at all cultured. Other than the character designs. Like, basically, it's just this busty girl who's, wearing a shirt that says Mega Milk on it. And there's, like, this one frame from the doujin that she appears in, where she's, like, bent over, holding her booba, and she has, like, this crazed expression on her face.
The rock is talking to me. Almighty Rock, I am at your command.
And it became a meme to draw other characters in that pose.
Oh, jeez.
Down here, you big pink lummox.
Oh, hi there, Mr. Plankton.
But yeah, I saw someone cosplaying the Mega Milk Girl.
So very
And, hey, Blammy Boy, glad to see you back here again.
Position of having to assist you.
I was in an undesirable position yesterday, and now my neck hurts.
Heed my word, my large future minion. Go into Jellyfish Cave. Follow the instructions on the signs that you see. At the end of the caves, you'll still be a big pink idiot, but you'll know.
Hey, a streak's a streak. Doesn't matter if it's a big streak or a small streak. It's not the size that matters, it's how you use it. Wait.
Well, then will you vaporize me?
I might spare your life so I can force you to work in my sweatshop making low-quality design and knockoff wallets.
Okay, he's really thought this through. I appreciate that for a maniacal genius.
Oh, thank you. Ooh, scary dark cave.
Okay, so, like, question for the people in the chat. What's your favorite SpongeBob episode, and why is it Band Geeks? Because I think everyone's in universal agreement that Band Geeks is the best episode of SpongeBob ever produced. Plankton and Kokonoe from BlazBlue had the same Japanese voice actress. Yeah, it's really interesting. Like, the comparison I've heard, which, like, I use as well, is if you listen to Plankton in Japanese, he sounds like Marine from Hololive. So I keep expecting Plankton in the Japanese dub to suddenly say, "I'm horny!" Or to call out overseas sexy guys. Yours was Rip Pants. You're entitled to your wrong opinion. Although Rip Pants is a good episode. Good season 1 episode at the very least. Back when the show was still finding its identity, and like season 1, if you go back and look at, is a lot more of your standard kids show, where like it has a moral to teach for each episode, whereas later seasons would be more absurdist. And then we get to, like, season 5 and onwards, where they start incorporating, like, some really uncanny gross out humor that just gives you nightmares. Yes, I'm talking about the Splinter episode and House Fancy, the one where, just for no good reason, they have an extended sequence of Squidward getting his toenail that he suddenly has ripped off. Anchor Arms. Yeah, Anchor Arms was another good early episode. A lot of Season 1 holds up pretty well, even if it's pretty tame in terms of the shenanigans they get into compared to what Season 2 and onwards would do. And there's a lot of character dynamics in there that you can tell they were still trying to figure out. Like Patrick being sort of a mentor or advice giver to SpongeBob, who's like well-meaning but just doesn't know what he's talking about, versus later seasons where he's a total man-child.
Oh, goody, another one.
Robot go boom! Shut up, Bolton.
Another interesting fact about the SpongeBob Japanese dub is that Patrick actually had 2 different voice actors depending on what season and what bits of media you're watching. Henya the Genius mentioned this recently when she was talking about watching SpongeBob dubbed in Japanese, because, you know, she lived in Japan. Patrick, for a while, in the Japanese dub, was voiced by a woman. And, you know, sounded appropriately like a female character. Whereas in later seasons, they gave him a new voice actor that, sounds more like, you know, a Japanese take on how he sounds in English. You know, kind of like the deep-voiced, dopey simpleton. Oh, now I remember what I have to do here. The answer is die.
Okay, so now what?
You tell me, Patrick. Well, I mean, if I wanted to go with a Patrick response for now what, the answer would be, let's get naked! Nah, let's save that for when we're trying to sell real estate.
SpongeBob's underwear fits quite right. Cannonball!
I love that they canonize that, yes, it's SpongeBob's underwear that they're all wearing when they pick it up. It's not just, like, generic underwear. They talk about, like, oh, I'm wearing SpongeBob's underwear. That's weird and gross. And yes, it is. It's very weird and gross to wear someone else's underwear unless, you know, you're doing some sort of kink thing. I've heard that the show starts to improve with season 9, but I haven't, you know, gone back to really check that, because just lack of interest.
That monster has been stinging all my good customers in their poop decks. I hear that you can find it.
Oh god, I remember that line from the very end of the Fry Cook Games episode. You know, these were white when I bought them. Because he's wearing yellow underwear. Is mayonnaise an instrument is a fun line? Yes, it is. Because it's something you can do your own like takes on with so many things. Just asking if any non-instrument thing is an instrument. And even then, you can use mayonnaise as an instrument. There's a video on YouTube of someone doing like a cover of a song using a mayonnaise jar as their instrument.
This one goes boom.
And horseradish is not an instrument either. Yeah, like, Squidward's so relatable in that episode. That's part of why it's the best episode. A lot of the Squidward-focused ones instead focus on, like, him getting the short end of the stick. Or, like, a lot of later season episodes focusing on Squidward. Focus on him having to suffer through stuff that's not his fault. So it ruins a lot of the humor. Especially, what's the episode? The Good Neighbor Club episode. Where, like, he ends up being put in jail through no fault of his own. And, like, he's too sympathetic in the episode, so it ruins the humor.
Show enough, Mrs. Puff.
Like, I feel like you can work with a premise of an episode where the main character, the main focus of the episode, is put through, like, torment through people that they don't like. But the problem is you have to go out of your way to establish that the person who's being, like, tormented is deserving of it because they're mean or unfair or rude or just whatever justification you can come up with. Whereas in a lot of the Squidward torment episodes, the problem is Squidward just wants to be left alone or, like, enjoy something that's a hobby of his. And yeah, he's snooty about it because that's his character. He's snooty. But, like, his snootiness, the way he acts, doesn't warrant the treatment that he gets in the episode. More often than not in later seasons. It's a very fine line that you have to walk in making sure that it's not too sadistic in the treatment of the character, but you also have to make sure that they're deserving of the comeuppance that they're getting. That's not a disproportionate comeuppance. You actually grew up with the SpongeBob movie game and the GBA creature from the Krusty Krab. I played the hell out of the movie game when I rented it. I played the GameCube version, which is apparently the worst version out of the console ones, at least.
That's much better.
It's a shame that the movie game's probably not going to get the Rehydrated treatment due to it being tied into a specific movie that Nickelodeon has no incentive to promote anymore. It's the same reason why we're probably not going to see a remaster of the Spider-Man 2 PS2 game. Because why would you... Like, the problem there with getting the license for that is convincing, you know, a Hollywood studio to promote a decades-old movie that
Pizza time.
they're not really making. There we go, Spider-Man 2. They're not going to be seeing any increased profits off of.
SpongeBob's underwear fits quite right.
The only exception I see to that is when we get remasters of Star Wars games. Because Star Wars is sort of an evergreen property where,
Clean as a whistle.
like, even if it's not a big player in pop culture at the time, there's still always a market to cash in on that nostalgia, whether there's a current big product to push or not. That's why we've seen remasters of the Battlefront games and like PS2 classics on PS4 releases of the PS2 era games, why we've seen a remaster of Dark Forces, even though that's very much something that you would not expect to get the full-blown remaster treatment, given that it's a Legends continuity game. Technically, Force Unleashed got a remaster, but it was the Wii version. No idea why they chose that one. But, you know. Post-season 9 makes it way more cartoonish and more snooty than older seasons. I'll take your word for it. I'm not all that interested in checking out, like, a lot of post-season 4 or 5 stuff. Just because, like, different writers are involved, different showrunners are involved. It's just not the same show anymore. It has the same characters. It has the same name. It has the same setting. But everything's conveyed and written so differently that I just don't feel like I would be part of its target demo anymore. Not to say that, you know, everything past a certain point is bad. It's just not for me. And I'm okay with that. I feel like, you know, when a show starts to change so much that's no longer what you liked, you can say, it's not for me, without you meaning it's bad because it's not what I grew up with. I feel like that's something people have to get more comfortable with saying. Because shows do change over time as writers come and go and showrunners come and go, or as the original creators take a step back and work on other projects.
Honestly, if there's one
thoughts on go on. Sorry, I don't mean to keep talking over you. I just have a lot to say about SpongeBob.
It's okay, dude. This is your stream. I'm just saying. One show that I will say that actually is bad, and not just because it's not what we grew up with. It's also the fact is that it is, you know, universally hated. And that's the new Velma show that's on HBO Max.
Well, yeah, that's a different thing entirely, that's a different issue entirely. I'm talking about, like, the same long-running show changing over time as, like, different writing staff come in. Whereas Velma is a new take on a pre-existing IP, but, like, a new show. And it's a show that's very clearly done with a very spiteful outlook on its source material. That's why I say it's a terrible show. Not because of, like, you know, a lot of people try to push that as, like, you know, some culture war thing where it's like, oh, it's trying to be woke, so it's bad. I'm like, no, it's not trying to be woke. It's very mean-spirited and very clearly wants to not be a Scooby-Doo show. Like, it very clearly has contempt for its target demo. It's one of the most mean-spirited shows I've ever seen anything from. I haven't watched it myself because, you know, believe it or not, I'm of the opinion that if you know that you're not going to like something, you shouldn't waste your time and money on it. Because, like, whether, you know, give it a negative review to stick it to the showrunners and executives that worked on this, that made this piece of shit, they don't care about that. They just care about getting your money.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's why I'm of the opinion, like, don't even hate watch stuff that you know is going to be bad. Just don't give it the time of day, and it won't make money, and it won't get a continuation.
Yeah, which is sad because I understand that season 2 of Velma just dropped.
Yeah, season 2 just dropped, and it's gotten about the same reception as before, from what I've seen. except it's even more mean-spirited now because now they have critics to clap back at, which, can I say, I hate it when shows take a break from the ongoing story to just clap back at people on the internet who say your show sucks. It's the most thin-skinned shit ever. And like, old shows did it too, and it usually fell flat there too. I'm not saying this is a recent problem. Like, you can find bits in, like, Animaniacs and Powerpuff Girls where they're responding to criticism from people on the internet. And it always takes me out of the show. It's like, okay, why are you so concerned with owning your critics that you're willing to just bring the show to a screeching halt and ruin the immersion of the show just to clap back at people that don't like what you've made? It's part of the reason I don't like Teen Titans Go. Because that one has, like, so many bits and entire episodes dedicated to their online haters that it shows to me that the showrunners are very thin-skinned and don't know how to handle criticism.
Yeah.
Teen Titans Go did it more than a few times, my dude. They had an entire special event based. They had multiple special event episodes that were just stealth ways for them to try and stick it to their online critics. Okay, so season 2 was made at the same time. See, I keep hearing conflicting things about how season 2 turned out. Mostly because I refuse to check it out for myself, because as I said, I don't waste my time on stuff that I know I'm not gonna like. And I have no interest in checking it out to see if it's really as bad as people are making it out to be. Because it's like, I've got better things to do, like sleeping and eating and playing video games that are good and playing video games that are trash in an enjoyable way and watching Hitomi Tanaka's magnum opus works.
Ooh, another one.
Let's see.
Oh, I don't disagree that there's very shallow criticism from butthurt original Teen Titans fans about Teen Titans Go existing. But there comes a point in the show's run where it becomes outwardly antagonistic towards the original series, and that's where I feel like that criticism starts to be more justified. And part of me feels like it's different from other, you know, unrelated shows that use the same property, where they go out of their way to get back the original voice cast, use character designs inspired by the original show, and make multiple direct references to the original show, to where you can't really entirely separate it as its own product, because it's still trying to use that familiarity from the 2003 series to hook in viewers.
I don't think SpongeBob's underwear fits quite right. Wooden presents.
Like,
So
Teen
where
Titans Go
it
is
just sounds so... Sorry.
Teen Titans Go is a very interesting case when it comes to shows with big online hatedoms, because the two sides are consistently antagonistic towards each other, and nothing productive happens as a result.
I don't care for Teen Titans Go, but I will
Like,
admit
I
it
don't
did
care
have
for
some...
Teen Titans Go, but you won't see me, like, ranting online about it because it's like, I don't like it, but I'm not gonna hate watch it. I'm not gonna, you know, constantly compare. I'm not gonna, like, you know, draw comparisons between, like, oh, this character is acting out of character because this is how they were in the 2003 series. Because it is a different show entirely. It's a comedy.
Yeah.
It's a screwball comedy. It's not trying to be the 2003 series. But at the same time, I understand that it's using the branding and familiarity of the original series. So there is some warranted criticism there for, like, it can't be its own entirely original thing because it's piggybacking off of a pre-existing property that people have a lot of really strong nostalgia and attachment to. And it seems to have nothing but contempt for that original series.
Yeah.
Or at least the writers do.
I remember seeing, like, there's at least two pieces of Teen Titans Go media that I actually enjoy.
Don't look down.
The first one is where Control Freak actually tells the Titans that he's responsible for the reason why they've been turned into a screwball comedy. That he quote unquote rebooted the universe to make them what they are.
See, I've seen a lot of people use that as justification for the show having some pretty smart writing, and I'm of the opinion that, like, that seems like an ass pull just to brush off criticism. Like, it's in the same vein as the, oh, did you know that 50 years ago Timmy Turner made a secret wish that nobody in Fairly Odd Parents would age so he'd get to keep his fairies forever? Like, that's very clearly not part of the original plan from the outset. It's an ass pull to justify creative decisions.
Yeah.
That people just happen to not like.
And then there's another one where it was an entire episode, and it had a catchy song that actually I have in my playlist. The Night Begins to Shine, but I just can't remember the name of the episode.
Did I say my opinions on Cosmic Shake? I did not. What I was going to say is I have a copy of it, I just haven't played it yet. Because I've got such a big gaming backlog that I'm trying to work through. Yeah, I've heard good things about it. I just haven't played it yet. I've heard that the movie's, like, surprisingly good for a Teen Titans Go movie. And I've heard that part of that is a result of it having a different writing staff than the show did. So who knows? I'm willing to bet that's probably better than the show itself. Because a lot of times, you know, the show writers and the movie writers tend to not be exactly the same. But yeah, I haven't played Cosmic Shake yet, but I plan on doing it soon.
Gosh, everyone is trying to help out today.
Step quietly there. That king jellyfish is just up at the top of this path. Good luck. You'll
All right, we're about to enter our first boss fight. And I do have one minor criticism of the King Jellyfish boss fight. No matter how faithful it is to the Kevin the Sea Cucumber episode. And that's that, like, mechanically, it's not a very interesting boss fight because it doesn't really have much of an attack pattern. But it should have had, like, a charge attack where it, like, charges at you and puts on a football helmet. Like he did in that one gag. Kevin. Bubble Bite canonically fucked. Yes. It's like, that's one of those curse facts that I love. Like, you guys know the retcon from Sonic Rivals that establishes that Silver's alternate future is the same as the alternate universe that Blaze came from, and that by extension, Eggman Nega is a descendant of Dr. Eggman. that, like, I feel like Sega didn't put too much thought into that, because the existence of a descendant of Dr. Eggman means that, by extension, Eggman canonically fucks. Someone rode Eggman's Pingus and enjoyed it.
Fresh like a spring breeze. You've just met the Sponginator.
The Sponginator.
You could bullshit and say Sage created him with technology. That genuinely feels like something Ian Flynn would try to retcon just to get rid of the implication that Sonic characters have sex. And I would be in support of that. Why am I doing so bad at this boss fight? It's the first boss in a kid's game. What the fuck is wrong with me tonight? I'm too focused on the idea of Eggman having sex. I'm too focused on the idea of Dr. Ivo Pingusnik raw dogging someone. Vanilla, the height of your average human mother. It's like the Emperor okay, but the Emperor in Star Wars, they retconned that to say that he didn't fuck. It's that he cloned himself, and then that clone fucked.
Yeah.
Which, that feels like too many steps to explain how someone has a grandchild. Like, I feel like, as stupid of a retcon as Rey being the granddaughter of Emperor Palpatine is, and how clearly not planned out it was, I don't feel like we needed explanation for where babies come from in Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not saying that's any better. I'm saying that's a worse explanation. Because it's just it's too overcomplicated when it's believable that someone in a position of galactic power would be able to get someone to sleep with him and carry on his legacy. In the event that he were to die, because he is very old. And not in the best health.
See, no problem. You can do anything you set your mind.
I wish they had committed to what Last Jedi did with Rey being a nobody. I personally think it's more interesting. Same here. Like, Last Jedi had a lot of problems, in my opinion. But I wish they had just stayed the course that was going. Because it's, like, for as many problems as its pacing had, which is my biggest problem. Its pacing and clearly not knowing what to do with Finn.
Yeah.
Because, like, they basically just do a retread of his arc from The Force Awakens. And it's like, okay, if you're really so unsure of what to do with one of your prominent characters in this trilogy that you just give him the same plot development twice, then why is he here? Like, I like that it subverted a lot of what had become kind of bog standard Star Wars lore at the time, mostly revolving the Jedi being like, oh, not just anyone can be a Jedi. You have to be born a special way to be a Jedi. Like, I've never liked that, I guess you could call it a retcon, because that really came into play with the prequel trilogy, establishing that Force-sensitive people have a higher midichlorian count than average people do. I like that The Last Jedi's ending implies that, no, it's not the circumstances of your birth that make you Force sensitive. It's just that, like, anyone has the capability to become a Jedi. It's not like, oh, you're born special, so you're better than everyone else. That's a very eugenics-y take on things, in my opinion. It's the same problem that I have with Harry Potter's narrative of the only people that can become wizards are people that are born of at least one magical parent.
Yeah. Oh, that feels so much better.
Like, isn't it a much more interesting story and a much more relatable fantasy for your younger demographic to have the idea that anyone can be one of the space wizards rather than just people that are born the right way?
For my best friend's
Yeah.
Can I rub some
Yeah, I get that.
What if I just gave you this?
Did Squidward
Like,
just fake an orgasm? No, I think that's genuinely what Squidward sounds like when he nuts. Oh no, I'll have to check the curse side of the hub in order to find that out. I'll have to see if that Wood Rocket parody of SpongeBob has Squidward in it. I know one episode has Sandy in it and Patrick. But I don't know if they ever do Squidward. I'm disappointed in the lack of Squidward Rule 34 in the live action space because come on, he's got tentacles. It writes itself. And don't tell me that tentacles can't be done in live action because I've seen it. Hitomi Tanaka's done it. Yeah, there's a live-action SpongeBob adult parody, and it's from Wood Rocket, who makes some of the most disgusting parodies I've ever seen, because they choose the most inherently unsexy properties to parody, and then just give these, like, revolting costumes to the characters. And I hate Wood Rocket so much. Like, it's not often that I can say that an adult parody ruined my childhood, but Wood Rocket comes close. With just how disgusting they make everything. But yeah, Wood Rocket made a SpongeBob adult take called SpongeBob Square Nuts. Even the name makes me gag.
Oh, jeez.
I haven't watched it. I just know of its existence thanks to Rebel Taxi, because he used it as a gag in his video about, what was it? A Day with SpongeBob SquarePants that, lost media search that ended up being for a movie that never existed in the first place, and may or may not have just been, like, scam. Yes, that name is gross. That name is very gross. Like, I haven't sat down and watched any of Wood Rocket's stuff because I have better taste than that. I'm exposed to it through Rebel Taxi at first, and then through that period where I used to watch The Cinema Snob. He covered a lot of their stuff. Oh, I can probably trade some shiny objects now.
So, do you want to
Yes,
trade shiny
I can.
objects for a golden spatula? That's quality craftsmanship, that is. Come again.
To get off the, Oh, I can get a few. To act as sort of a palate cleanser, I'm going to say this. The following is what, my headcanon of Mr. Krabs calling up SpongeBob after he gets all the shiny objects and ends up in the hospital. Ahoy, SpongeBob, me bob! I traded all them shiny objects for some ketamine, and I've overdosed, and now I'm on the verge of death! Arr, 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 arr.
And they say I'm crazy.
He can't go to the hospital. He has no health care. No, you can go to the hospital without health care. You'll just be put in debt for it.
Now, a debris-covered crater.
SpongeBob, the robots are destroying downtown Bikini Bottom. We have to evacuate.
All right, but it's gonna take a while to get all this dust.
They literally make that joke in season 4. Well, that's a retcon because he does go to the hospital in a season 2 or 3 episode from, actually a couple times.
Not vacuum, evacuate.
It's one of those post-season 4 retcons. It's not canon.
Can we just load them up in the boats?
That won't do any good.
Why not?
Because the robots have taken all the steering wheels.
Couldn't we
Oh,
just
shit.
drive in a straight line?
No, there are too many turns.
SpongeBob doesn't have consistent continuity, and yet from what I understand, the newer seasons are insistent on making callbacks to previous episodes. It's like, are you going to have a continuity or not?
Those fiends, they've thought of everything. Never fear, Mrs. Puff. I'll get those steering wheels back.
SpongeBob, if you're involved, I always fear. But I tell you what, if you can pull this off, I'll give you a golden spatula.
The grammar aficionado in me is angry that there's no space between A and golden.
Ah, jeez.
They could have fit that in that box too.
How about a driver's license?
Yeah, it was
instead?
probably what do you want to bet? It was a mistake that slipped out. They didn't realize till after
Well,
it was
yeah,
already published.
I tend to notice subtitle typos in a lot of games. The most common ones I've seen being the first 3 Ratchet and Clank games having a lot of instances where they use the wrong form of your. But my favorite one, not necessarily typo, just bad subtitling, being from Mighty Number 9, where they put a stage direction instead of the actual line.
Mm.
And it was in the DLC that nobody played that actually ended up being better than the base game of Mighty Number 9. Like, if Mighty Number 9 were to get a proper continuation and not just be a side option that nobody picks in the Mighty Gunvolt games, I would like to see a continuation based on Ray's gameplay rather than Beck's, because Beck's gameplay is boring. Yeah, I think it's because of legal stuff with the movie being lifted during the production of season 10 or 11. That's why Perchin was yellow for a while, because they changed him into the colors of the first movie, which is purple. I think it might, like, to my understanding,
Hydrate, you bastard! Hydrate!
okay, I'll hydrate. Yeah, I've been talking a lot. I need to lubricate my throat. Don't get the wrong ideas.
Too late.
Okay.
Oh, posture check.
Give me a sec. Ah. By the way, there's a new redeem in there for you guys. Forgot to mention that. Ah. There we go. He also referenced Goofy Goobers in season 11.
You may ask yourself,
There we go.
How did I get this disease?
you may ask yourself,
What are my treatment options?
and you may ask yourself,
How will this affect my loved ones?
and you may say to yourself,
You may be entitled to financial compensation.
I get the feeling Cloud's going to enjoy that one, given that they enjoy the other once-in-a-lifetime redeem that I have on there with the, my god, a shotgun! Yeah, that video came up in my recommendations a couple weeks ago, and I've loved it ever since. Then again, I just love the talking heads in general. I know that David Byrne would get on my ass for saying the talking heads instead of talking heads, but I don't care. Frankly, I do not care.
I don't give a shit.
Frankly, I have better things to do than get in hypothetical arguments about the proper nomenclature of one of the best new wave bands of the 70s and 80s. With the frontman of said one of the best new wave bands of the 70s and 80s.
I feel like a new sponge.
Do you really feel like a new sponge?
I don't know why I was going the hard way of solving this puzzle.
Presents.
We need a fuck you we need the fuck you Baltimore commercials redeemed. I'll add that for next time. That would be a good one, yeah. Big Bill Hell's Cars.
Roll the sponge.
I'm trying to think of some other short commercials that I could add as redeems or like short bit. Well, there's one from Squarepants that I've been wanting to add, and I have it like set up where I could add it. I just don't know what to call the redeem. It's the one where it's from Squarepants 1, and they're at Carlton's funeral, and like the woman comes up to say to talk about a particularly fond memory of Carlton, and she like walks up to the mic, you know, awkwardly gets set up on the mic has some feedback and all that stuff, and then she just says sex and then walks off.
Jeez.
It shines.
Like, I don't know what to call that redeem because Twitch is really anal retentive about redeem and emote names being too sussy.
Can't imagine why.
Oh, and God, there's so many good Squarepants clips that I could use as redeems. Another one that I thought of was Pizza Hut in the garage. And then you know, they laugh about it, and then Uncle Phil's like, "Look, you big-eared freer! You take your horny little ass, and you find Jeffrey, and you find Jeffrey, and you find Jeffrey, and you find Jeffrey!" Squarepants is like a special YouTube poop. Like one of the greatest YouTube poops of all time, where damn near every single line in it is quotable in some way. You'll be hard-pressed to find another piece of YouTube poop that has that level of memeability to it.
Sometimes pushing a simple button is the most satisfying. Push, 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 push.
Another continuity oof that Lewis season is that King
Women is a
Neptune
trip,
fun.
Uncle Funkle. Let's say you accidentally scream out,
Speaking of fesh pins.
jumping all out the back of your car.
Would you make me a sandwich?
Hey, JKR.
Yes?
Would you make me a sandwich?
Hold on. Hold on. Okay.
No!
That's the wrong no.
I know. I'm well aware it's the wrong no. But it's the no I wanted to use.
My God, that shotgun!
I don't think I deserve that.
Depends on who the shotgun was aimed at.
Yeah, right. But knowing
That was
your
Dash
chat,
Cat that redeemed it, not not Cloud this time.
but still, knowing your chat,
Well, you know what they say about failure, Dash Cat. Failure is just success that you sucked at.
I did not hit her. It's not
I just
true.
made that
It's
up.
bullshit. I did not hit her.
I just pulled that, I just extracted that directly from my rectum.
I love opening presents.
You know, I saw tons of ads for Nicktoons Unite as a kid. I just never got around to playing them. I've heard that it's really good fan service for fans of like classic to like mid 2000s era Nickelodeon. One of the few video game representations of Invader Zim as well. Like, I know this is, you know, a very normie take for people of my age demo, but I fucking loved Invader Zim. Like, I watched the premiere on the night where it premiered back-to-back with Fairly Odd Parents. And while Fairly Odd Parents would be the instant smash hit that would go on to run for way longer than it deserved to, Invader Zim was the one I was really interested in, even from the previews.
Just my size.
You couldn't handle the show as a kid outside of a few episodes. I guess I owe it to me just always having kind of a dark sense of humor, even as a kid. Like, I was never bothered by the disturbing stuff in Invader Zim. I always thought it was neat. Because there was no other show on kids' TV at the time that was like that. The closest that we would get in my childhood would be probably Billy and Mandy.
oh god, do you remember when it was Grim and Evil?
Yes, I remember. Okay, there was an event that Cartoon Network did one year called the Big Pink Weekend, where they aired a whole bunch of pilots for potential new Cartoon Network shows. And I watched every pilot that aired on that weekend. Some of them are lost media now, I think. But I watched both the premiere pilots for Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy and Evil Con Carne. And out of all of those, the one I was most excited for was Megas XLR, but that's another thing entirely. But I actually preferred Evil Con Carne over Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. But I think it's cool that they tried to meld the two shows into one continuity after Evil Con Carne was canceled.
That's horrible. The Sea Needle is the cradle of Crochet Corner.
But I still love Billy and Mandy. I was super stoked when Maxwell Adams announced that he was going to finally show the pilot from his, like, not exactly a pilot, but a short film that was the debut of the Billy and Mandy characters from when he was in college at the Trum Animation Film Festival, and then uploaded to his YouTube channel. It ended up being a lot different from what everyone was expecting, because he described it as something completely different.
Bring me shiny objects, but I'm going to sweeten the deal.
Have a good night, Dash Cat.
All the tikis here at the Sea Needle.
Hey, Dash Cat.
I'll give you a bonus golden spatula.
Why would I want to break the tikis, Mr. Krabs?
Because they were laughing at you and calling you funny names.
What kind
But, like, the Billy and Mandy student film, Billy and Mandy in Trepanation of the Skull and You, I believe it's called. Like, I remember all the hype about that getting ready to come out. Because Maxwell Adams had talked this up for years about what this was like. And then the final thing, while it's still good and funny if you know what it's making fun of, is really different from how he had sort of sold it to us. The Sea Needle, that's Andy knocks SpongeBob off of, yeah. Like, the way he always talked about in interviews was that it was about Billy drilling a hole into his skull to let out his inner demons, which sounds like a metal as fuck concept. And then the actual student film comes out, finally, viewable to the public. And it's a parody of, like, 1950s educational films that they would show in schools. And it's not about Billy drilling into his skull to let out his inner demons. It's just, like, an educational thing on the idea of trepanation, which is where you drill a hole into your skull to allow blood to flow more freely, like, to and from your brain. It's a pseudoscience that the idea is that, like, our skulls are too confined for our brains, and that by drilling a hole to relieve the pressure, it increases your brain's performance. Do not do this. It is completely bunk. It is not true at all.
Smash all the...
But, like, it's a parody, like, hyping up the benefits of it. And the gag is that he drills a hole in his skull at the end. It's disgusting. But that's not at all how he described it in interviews for years. So I was kind of taken aback by it. Like, oh, this is what it is. If I had a nickel for every piece of lost media that involved films related to drilling a hole into your own skull, I'd have 2 nickels, which is not much, but it's weird that it happened twice. And very concerning that it happened twice. The other one being well, it's not lost, it's just not publicly viewable. Because the original director only wants it shown in certain settings. A film called Heartbeat in the Brain, which is sort of a documentary, I guess you could call it, about a woman who performed a trepanation on herself. And it's like, it shows the footage of her drilling into her own skull with a dentist drill. So that is not viewable to the public, and there's, like, you know, people pushing for it to get released to the public. She doesn't want to. If you really want to see it for yourself, a clip of it is shown in a Mondo film, or shockumentary as they're also known, called A Hole in the Head. Like, it doesn't show the whole thing, it just shows snippets from it. But it's very it is gross.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And also very stupid and dangerous to do. Even she recommends against performing a trepanation on yourself. If you're going to have someone drill a hole into your skull, make sure it's a professional. That is the only medical advice I will give tonight. If you're going to have someone drill a hole into your skull for any reason, make sure it's a doctor who does it. A real doctor, not a quote-unquote doctor. Not the kind of doctor who thinks that cancer can be cured by chiropractic, basically, or by essential oils, like an actual licensed physician. That's my PSA for tonight. You know, because we have such an epidemic of people drilling holes into their own skulls.
Right?
I feel like after this stream, I'm probably going to make one of those, like, oh, senpai of the pool, what is your wisdom? And it's going to be like, oh, Arikado of the pool, what is your wisdom? And it's going to be, if you ever have to have a hole drilled into your skull, make sure it's done by a licensed physician.
Now that's gotta hurt.
I do have a not-so-fun fact about Battle for Bikini Bottom that I'm surprised it took me until now to remember to bring up. This only applies to the original version. It's not in the remake. In the Jellyfish Field stage, the developers had trouble getting the texture for the tree trunks to look right. They couldn't find, like, a satisfying wood texture that also looked cartoony enough and blended in with the game's aesthetic style at the time. You want to know what textures at the time, and even today, but especially back then, were usually just photographs sourced from, like, some sort of stock photo source. Or sometimes were photos that the developers themselves had taken. You want to know what photograph they used for the texture for the tree trunks in the Jellyfish Field stage of the original Battle for Bikini Bottom? They used a photo of shit.
Oh no.
And if you look close at that texture, you can see, yep, that is one big pile of shit. There, I hope I've ruined at least some people's childhoods with that information.
Like a spring breeze. I feel like a new sponge. Up for a game of SpongeBob? Hi, Gary. Meow. Yes, thanks for noticing. I have been working out. Meow. Not done? Doesn't that mean meow? Oh, that's the entrance to the rooftops, which leads to the lighthouse? Aha! There's another golden spatula. I could really use that. Meow. What do you mean, get Sandy to help me? I can get through this. Meow, meow. Oh, that gap looks big. Okay, I'm definitely not making that jump. How is anyone going to get across there? Uh-oh, more robots. Holy Dutchman's ghost! That gap looks impossible! And impassable! Okay, I'll go get Sandy to help me out.
You know, going with more SpongeBob trivia, there's one specific, like, there are a lot of older episodes that got edits in later runs to, like, cut out material that parents complained about. And there's two in particular that strike me as odd things to cut out. Well, actually, three in particular, two of which are from the same episode, that struck me as odd things to cut out, but lo and behold, they cut them out of later reruns, and
Fresh like a spring breeze.
like, you can only find the unedited versions on certain DVD releases, and of course on the internet. Two of them come from the episode where SpongeBob has to write an essay. The first of these cuts is where he, like, imagines what having a driver's license will be like. In the original version that was aired before they started making the edits, it would then do, like, an imagination sequence where he imagines a Formula 1 drive, or like either a Formula 1 driver or a drag racer, like, taking off and then immediately crashing. And it's live action footage.
Oh, jeez.
Which early seasons of SpongeBob use live action footage for a lot of gags. But they cut that out of later airings. And the other one from that same episode is when SpongeBob's looking out the window to try and keep himself from getting distracted from writing his essay. In the original airing, one of the things he saw was Patrick rubbing suntan lotion on Sandy. And they cut that out of later airings. I'm like, okay, I get somewhat the reasoning behind it, but, like, come on, it's not that bad. Like, there's nothing inherently sexual about rubbing suntan lotion on someone. And if you think that there is, then that's a you problem. That says more about you than it does about the show's content.
I'm getting dizzy just watching. Nothing like a bit of roping to get the heart pumping.
Oh yeah, and the other instance that strikes me as weird that's from a different episode is from the episode where Squidward tries a Krabby Patty for the first time. You may notice that, like, he mentions, before he goes into the patty bowl, he mentions a security system, and then we just never see it. It just cuts to him straight in the patty bowl. In the original version of the broadcast, which aired for quite a few times afterwards until parents started complaining, or until, like, standards and practices started complaining, one or the other. Usually there's a lot of crossover. It's usually both. The gag was he would walk into the Krusty Krab, and, like, the security system was like a bucket that drops on him. And he'd be like, oh, they dropped water on me? That's our security system? Wait, what's that smell? Wait, this isn't water, it's gas! And then a robot hand comes in from off screen and lights a match. And then you see a burst of flame. And Squidward walks through the door into the kitchen and he's all charred. And the second bucket drops on him. And then you see another burst of flame, and then he makes it to the patty vault.
Sandy, boy, am I glad
it's one of the best gags in the show, and they cut it.
TV reception has been terrible.
Ah,
I need to have someone replace my old antenna with this shiny new one.
Yes, sir.
Like, I don't get why they cut it either. Like, yeah, it's kind of violent, but SpongeBob's gotten away with worse in later seasons. And if it's about repeatable behavior, yeah, kids are known to have access to buckets of gasoline and mechanical hands that can light matches.
So, What's Serpent got to do
Wasn't that due to 9/11 from what I've heard? It could have been because a lot of really stupid edits were made as part of post 9/11 sensitivity, where a lot of them had nothing to do with 9/11 imagery. It was just like Pokemon saw an episode removed from reruns. The episode that introduced Tentacruel and had a giant Tentacruel destroying buildings. That was cut from re-airings due to post 9/11 sensitivity. And it's like, that has nothing to do with 9/11. Like, there's no way anyone can be traumatized by that.
I guess it was because of the idea of urban destruction and all that, but still.
Yeah, I get urban destruction, but it was stupid because it's like, it was a very specific kind of urban destruction that happened in 9/11, and that is not what ended up being cut in most of these edits. Like, Transformers Robots in Disguise 2001 was also victim to this a lot, due to it being set in a city and featuring a lot of scenes of buildings being destroyed. But, like, where were we going to draw the line there? Were we not going to air Godzilla movies on TV anymore because they featured buildings being destroyed? Of course not.
Like, I understand that even, like, maybe 10 years later when the Ghostbusters game came out on the PlayStation systems, and on the Xbox system, as I recall. They had, the whole thing is set in New York, but they actually took out the Twin Towers.
Well, that I can understand because it was meant to be in a more contemporary setting. But, like, you bring that up, and there were, like, shows that had episodes set in New York, or had imagery of New York that showed the Twin Towers in the background, where they went back after 9/11 and it airbrushed out the Twin Towers. As if it's like, oh, we can't remind people that the Twin Towers ever existed.
Yeah.
That happened in The Simpsons and Family Guy, I know that much. Lilo and Stitch had a plane scene, but that got replaced because of 9/11. Also, the entire ending sequence of Metal Gear Solid 2 had to be replaced had to be cut and re-edited at the last minute because it coincidentally resembled 9/11 too much. That one I can understand, because it involved iconic New York landmarks being destroyed by a large aircraft crashing into New York City.
Yeah. Like, you know, like Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro had a similar issue, though. It was like, despite the fact that none of it was actually, none of that was actually taking place, like, in the game, where it was like, it takes place on the Twin Towers, but it's not, it's... Like,
I love the way that they censored that, though. Like, it's lazy censorship that I can appreciate, where, like, all they did was change one line of dialogue and add a bridge in between the towers. It's like, oh, these are definitely not the Twin Towers because the Twin Towers didn't have a bridge.
I recall, there was even mention of Thor being involved.
Well, that wasn't... the Thor thing was, like, just a cutscene that got cut. And people are trying to find that cutscene because apparently... it was a downloadable video file on the game's website as like a preview for the game for something that ultimately didn't make it into the game. But that video file hasn't been archived with the website itself. So all we have is a screenshot of that cutscene to prove that it ever existed.
Yeah, and like it's funny because I remember as a kid when I finally beat Enter Electro, I see the whole scene where it's like Spidey is looking at the Daily Bugle and they're talking about how Thor has saved the city, and I'm like, where was Thor in all of this?
Yeah, Thor was supposed to be there, but for whatever reason they cut it out. It's just one of those weird. it's very common, unfortunately, in game development that they end up having to cut things for time. And even if they've already made like cutscenes and stuff referencing it, they'll just still have to cut it just to get the product shipped out on time. Like, I know I like to shit on David Cage a lot, and I'm going to continue to, justifiably so. Heavy Rain, which I consider to be one of his magnum opuses for how batshit stupid it is. It has an entire plot point that's heavily played up in the opening parts of the game and then gets dropped partway through. Because,
Patrick needs to do laundry.
like, I've seen conflicting reports that was either due to development crunch or due to David Cage deciding that was too stupid of a plot point even for him. Which then makes me wonder, why didn't you cut out the stuff that was already there so you don't have this plot line that gets abruptly dropped and goes nowhere? Like, if it was really so stupid, wouldn't you want to scrub all traces of it instead of leaving in this big red herring that goes nowhere? I plan on streaming Heavy Rain sometime once I get a good censorship system set up. Because there is an uncomfortable amount of nudity in that game. I say uncomfortable amount because the nudity is never sexy. But it's clearly trying to be sexy. It just fails because of the context that it's in. Like, either because of the context it's in, or because of the really bad motion capture.
Oh, geez.
Can't believe I'm wearing SpongeBob's underwear.
Ew.
I told you, they reference it. But, like, in the early parts of Heavy Rain, after, Sean has been kidnapped by the Origami Killer, we have these recurring sequences of, Ethan, blacking out at night, and then waking up in the middle of the street anytime that the Origami Killer has taken a new victim. Where he wakes up in the middle of the street, holding an origami figure that the Origami Killer would have left at the site of his crime. It's supposed to imply that maybe Ethan is the Origami Killer, but because that plot point goes nowhere, we know for a fact that it can't be him. But the original plan for that, and this is the idea that was too stupid even for David Cage's stupid stories, was that Ethan was going to have an unexplained psychic link with the Origami Killer. Where anytime that the Origami Killer killed someone, Ethan would black out and wake up somewhere where the Origami Killer had struck.
Excuse me.
And I feel like that goes to show how much of a hack fraud David Cage is. Because it's like, if the plot point is too stupid even for you, why did you still leave it in any state of completion?
Toasted tiki Texas style.
Also, don't forget that David Cage is working on a Star Wars game.
Oh, jeez.
I don't know if it's ever gonna come out, considering that it was announced like 3 years ago, I think, and we still haven't seen anything from it. Hell, if I remember correctly, it was announced before the PS5 came out. And we still don't know anything about it. Well, all I know about is that it's going to be really stupid and melodramatic, because all David Cage games are. And if it has any black characters, then they're going to be written in a really questionable way, because he seems to have some hang-ups about stereotypes of black American people. Like, I don't mean to say that he's a racist. I just mean to heavily imply it. The fact that the only black character that shows up in his first big title, why did I forget its name? Indigo Prophecy, also known as Fahrenheit, is usually accompanied by funk music, plays basketball as a pastime, and is a deadbeat to his pregnant girlfriend. Like, that comes up as him having some racist hang-ups. And then the only black guy that shows up in Heavy Rain is a thug. Also, he made the rare instance of misusing Willem Dafoe. It's hard to misuse Willem Dafoe, but he had Willem Dafoe in one of his games, and he managed to make him not interesting by not letting him act crazy. You don't do that with your Willem Dafoe. You don't make him the straight man.
I'm getting dizzy just watching. Hey. Ew. Can't believe I'm wearing SpongeBob's underwear.
Have a good night, Shadow Dragon. I am...
Yeah, Shadow Dragon.
I've been streaming for about 2.5 hours. Might wrap it up after this stage. If you could dislocate every bone in your body without any downsides, would you choose to do so? Depends. Are we able to relocate them at will? That's the question. Yes?
That's the real
Then
question.
hell yeah. Hell yeah. I could think of many applications for being able to dislocate and relocate your bones at will.
Another find for Patrick.
Most of which involve fitting into tight spaces. Or just generally freaking people out. I know it was implied by the no downsides thing, but I'm familiar with genie wishes from Norm the Genie, and I know that you have to be very specific in your wording, otherwise they'll try and screw you with the fine print. Like
You just missed a spot.
I love that all my points of reference for pop culture tropes tonight have been from classic Nickelodeon shows. For the classic Nickelodeon game.
I feel like a new sponge. Fresh like a spring breeze. I feel like a new sponge. Somehow I don't think he needs a hand.
I mean, any separate bone, doesn't matter if it's joined or not, any separate bone. Yeah, I can think of plenty of uses for that. Like, imagine how easy it would be to escape from handcuffs if you could dislocate all the bones in your hand. Fuck. You're giving me some brain rot, Blammy boy. You just gave me the idea of, like, my model, like, you know, trapped in a prison cell. So he dislocates all of his bones and, like, slithers like a fucking slime through the bars of his cell. Well, yeah, but why would you need to consider that? I'm not gonna go into detail, and I have my reasons. Let's just say I've been handcuffed a few times, and no, it's not for crimes. I don't have a criminal record, no matter how many times the police try to give me a criminal record. I had a story. I was at a Halloween party on my old college campus when I was going to college, at, like, a proper university, rather than a community college. And I was dressed as Psycho Mantis. And a police officer pulls me aside at the party and is like, are you the person we've heard of that's been going around campus wearing a gas mask and military gear? And I'm like, yeah, it's a costume, my dude. It's for a costume party. Do you not see that it is Halloween? Do you not see the other people dressed in various costumes here? Did I really just say I plead the fifth here? Yes, I did, and you can't tell me not to. It's my constitutional right. Or at least that's what Saul Goodman tells me. Oh no, I haven't watched that show, or Breaking Bad. All I know is that there's a part where someone throws pizza on the roof. Are you not a gamer, officer? Like, I'm not even talking about, like, do you not recognize the character? I'm talking about, like, do you not see that we are at a costume Halloween party? Like, it's Halloween. I wonder why someone could be dressed outlandishly.
Right.
Number 1 in the Bikini Bottom scavenger hunt, 3 years running. Thank you.
Thank you.
I kind of miss this era of Tom Kenny's SpongeBob performance. Like, if you play his, like, season 1 to 4, or season 1 to 3 rather, SpongeBob performances, and then play it against, like, season 4 onwards, his voice gets, like, from season 4 onwards, his voice gets really high-pitched. And it sounds really grating to me. And that also just, you know, happens to coincide with where they changed the way that they write SpongeBob from being like, you know, a dorky, kind of childish adult into being a literal man-child who just cries all the time. It also coincides with, like, them giving SpongeBob an increased amount of musical numbers where Tom Kenny has to sing as SpongeBob, and for whatever reason, their direction is, Guide the Raid, AKL Trifecta, if possible. I will try. If not, then I will do that for whenever the next opportunity arises. But yeah, it coincides with Tom Kenny having to do a lot more musical numbers as SpongeBob, and for whatever reason, either by his decision or through the direction, they decide that SpongeBob should be a horrible singer with a really bad singing voice. And it's like, okay, I could understand that if that was part of a gag, but when you release an entire album of SpongeBob songs and SpongeBob sounds bad on all of them, you're just making songs that are not good to listen to. You know, I joke about, you know, almost getting arrested for cosplaying Psycho Mantis at a Halloween party. But that particular year had a lot of really weird incidents happen where it was like stuff where police got involved, but it turns out there was no threat whatsoever. And people ended up laughing it off in hindsight. Like, I remember this was my first year there. Actually, my first month there. We had, like, a suspected gunman on campus. And I swear this has a happy ending. This is not gonna get dark. So, like, we are put on lockdown for hours. We're not allowed to go back to our dorms if we're in class. And I'm in class, so I can't go back to my dorm. We're not allowed to use our cell phones to call out to people because I don't know why not. So I'm not able to contact my parents to let them know that I'm safe. Like, this goes on for a while until eventually the lockdown is called off. It's not until I get back to my dorm and when everyone else gets back to their dorms that we see the local news report about the situation. And apparently they had been reporting on it as like an ongoing event. And we find out the reason that the lockdown was called in and the reason that was called off. There was no gunman. It was someone that saw a person carrying an umbrella, and they mistook the umbrella for an assault rifle.
Oh, jeez.
So that started an inside joke among people that year called the Gunbrella. But yeah, that was certainly an experience to have in your first year of college.
One less varmint. getting dizzy just watching.
I promise you guys, I've got plenty of interesting and or weird stories from my life because I have lived a very strange life, as you would expect someone who's half vampire and half elf to have. But I have plenty of, like, not necessarily wild stories of me doing stuff, but just stuff that I'm tangentially aware of or involved with. Like, I tend to be a pretty chill dude. I haven't done anything too wild myself. But I've known plenty of wild people and have been present for wild situations. Like, one that's also from my college days is, I was in an anime club, and this club would often have, like, get-togethers and parties and stuff. And there was this one dude who was part of the club. I don't talk to him anymore because he turned out to be, like, really problematic. And he was at the time. I was just too naive to notice it. And, like, he was a hardcore Batman fan. That was, like, one of his defining features. He was a really big Batman fan. Like, he idolized Batman as, like, who he should aspire to be. I wasn't there for this party, but I was told about the aftermath of it because, believe it or not, I don't go to parties very often. I'm not much of a party person unless it's, like, you know, a little get together with friends. But, like, you know, big ragers where people are getting drunk and doing all sorts of wild stuff, that's not for me. I'm too chill for that. But, I hear the story of, like, this guy who, the unnamed friend, he's, like, piss-ass drunk, as he is known to get at parties, and he walks into the bathroom. He comes out wearing a homemade Batman mask that no one saw him go in with, so they don't know where he got it from.
Oh, jeez.
And then he just runs towards the window and says, "I'm Batman!" And then he jumps out the window.
Jeez.
He's on the second floor, and presumably because of the alcohol loosening up his body, he doesn't get injured from it.
Well, if it isn't Sandy Cheek.
Howdy, miss.
Oh, jeez.
Now, he denied that happened, but everyone else who was there said that it did. So I like to think that he was just embarrassed of his stupid antics.
Toasted tiki Texas style.
Either that or he was too drunk to remember that any of that happened. This is the same guy that I went to one of my first cons with, and I had to be his handler for when he was cosplaying The Question. Because he did the stupidest way, but also, like, low-key kind of smart. But, like, stupid and smart at the same way. It's so stupid that it wraps back around to being smart. Like, you know, if you know what The Question looks like, you know he's got no facial features. He's got a blank face.
Right.
Now, how would... You've done cosplays before, JKR. How would you accomplish a featureless skin tone face?
I mean, I would find a material that actually, you know, you could see out of, but people can't see in.
The most common thing that I've seen Question cosplayers do, and by extension Rorschach cosplayers, because they, you know, very similar outfits,
yeah,
is they use, like, layers of skin-colored pantyhose to cover their heads with, so they can still see out of it, but it obscures your face enough that other people can't see in.
And the lighthouse else was...
He instead made a face mask from a blow-up doll and wore it covering his eyesight. Because he didn't want any part of his face to be visible. So I had to be his handler to make sure he didn't bump into things.
Oh my god.
Thanks, Mrs. Puff. Now I'll help you guys evacuate.
But SpongeBob, you don't have a driver's license.
Oh, don't I?
No, you don't.
Well, if I don't, then what's this?
A library card.
Oh.
I like that they actually textured the library card to be a library card. They didn't have to, but that's attention to detail I can appreciate.
Yeah.
All right, that's all we can do in this level for now. We have to come back later when we get the cruise bubble, which is after the Robo Patrick boss, I believe. And while we're here, might as well get some more golden spatulars from Mr. Krabs, and I can probably trade in some lost socks for some more golden spatulars.
So, that's...
Wow, SpongeBob, you found some!
Now they're back home, safe where they belong.
Here's your golden back scratcher.
Spatula.
I don't speak Italian.
I speak Italian. Watch. Scusi. Babada boopy?
E cosa?
Babada boopy? Babada bibada babada babada.
Cos'è Marco? With the queen.
Yeah, I deserve that.
I think we both do.
Did they find you?
They didn't find me, but you know what I did find, Patrick? I found myself. I am at one with my inner self. And my inner self is exactly the same as my outer self. Turns out I'm not that layered. All right, I'll go ahead and put in that raid request. Let me double check. AKL trifecta. There we go. There we go, yeah. Oh, Persona 3. Nice. All right, thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. Thank you to JKR for co-commentating with me.
Always a pleasure.
I'll see you guys next time, and until then, unpleasant dreams.
Well, we're the boys in chorus. We hope you like our show. We know you're rooting for us, but now we have to go.